News Talk 1090 WKBZ, the talk of Muskegon.
Well, your dadgum government, you sorry so-and-sos. You got your damn hands in every pocket of my clothes. Well, your dad...
And good morning, Muskegon. This is EyeOnMuskegon, and I'm Jim Riley here in Muskegon's Clear Channel studios with my friend and engineer, guy with a brandy new something in his car, the legendary Oscar Osbo.
Lots of new things in my car, yeah.
Yeah, lots of inexpensive things to get your vehicle running. Well, we're glad you're here. Almost didn't make it last week, but he is here. And with us as co-host in the cockpit this morning is Professor Andy Fink.
Good morning, Jim.
Hey, Andy.
Good morning, Oscar.
Good morning, Oscar. As we always want to remind you, we are Muskegon's #1 rated political talk radio show. But even beyond that, we're going to crow a little bit about this, I guess. We must be proud of our listeners out there. We are the #1 rated show in our time slot on Sunday mornings. So we beat them all, baby. And again, we want to put you on the radio if you're so inclined. Give us a call, 231-830-3109, and we'll put you on. We'll let you talk. If you get wacky, we'll put you off. But you can call back. And then really, that's what EyeOnMuskegon's about. We want to talk about the citizens and the residents and the businesses and the taxpayers who live out here in Muskegon County and nearby. If you live in Oceana County and you can listen to us, we'd love to talk to you here. And or Ottawa County, and Oceana County. Of course, not too many people live just across the border up there in Oceana County from us, so... but, it doesn't matter where you live if you're listening to this show, and if you're not listening, this affects you also, because the same types of sleight of hand, the same fudging of the rules, the same lack of transparency that we see here, sadly, so often in Muskegon County, is what's going on throughout the country. Not just nationally and with things like Solyndra and massive government spending, but and at the state level and at county levels all over the country. So the way to fix it, the only way I'm aware of to fix it, because the folks up there who are making decisions don't seem all that inclined to fix it themselves. The only way to fix it is for us to get involved. And that's what the show's about, too, is we want to educate you, give you some information that you might not have heard before.
Well, I'm so glad you didn't take Ted Nugent's point of view. So the only way to fix it is what? Well, you didn't hear what Ted Nugent said?
Well, I heard certain things. What did you hear?
Pulling his gun out and shooting, but anyway.
Well, he did not say that.
Oh,
I know, I know, but it's... I was thinking, waiting for Jim to say something like that. But
well, Jim's not going to say that, because Ted Nugent was very clear, and my understanding is when he made his comments, which were obviously comments that I don't recall exactly what they were, but they were emotionally driven. But the Secret Service was able to get some of their servicemen, some of the officers out of the bordellos of Colombia, and they visited Ted Nugent at his home, and apparently they had a very nice conversation, and there was absolutely nothing, notwithstanding some of the media, Oscar, who was trying to distort what Mr. Nugent had said. Matter of fact, a similar distortion of what Mr. Nugent had on his radio show was what led for him to cancel, or actually be canceled, from his show at Summer Celebration years ago, and which ultimately led to his victory in court over the Muskegon Celebration folks. So we try not to distort the facts. We certainly will make mistakes on occasion, and if we do, we would like you to correct us.
So what did he say? Professor knows.
He said that if Mr. Obama is reelected, that he will end up dead or in jail. Not Mr. Obama, but Ted Nugent, will end up dead or in jail.
Oh.
Yes, that's what he said.
Okay.
Yeah, matter of fact, I can't believe you remembered that perfectly.
Yeah,
because I would not have been able to do that.
But the way that he said it that way, you can read it more than one way. So that was what happened.
One of the things, though, that happens to lower the level of political discourse in this country is that instead of quoting a person, you quote what you think he must have meant.
Right.
And if they say, well, that's what he meant, well, if you're not trying to distort it, why don't you just quote what he said?
Yeah. Yeah.
And, of course, when the folks whose job is to protect the President of the United States, when they did go interview him, they they found exactly that there was no there. But yet here we are again, weeks afterwards, talking about it. And that's what we want to do. We really would like to focus on what's actually specifically going on. And one way that we can help out, or at least one way you listeners can help us out, is we need reporters out there. We are getting more and more folks who are communicating to me through either calling in here on the air or sending us an email at Ion, or actually going to the website, which is at EyeOnMuskegon.com, and that's EYEOnMuskegon.com, and it's all one word. If you just go EYE space on Muskegon space, you end up with all the eye doctors in Muskegon County, and that won't get you where you want to go. But you can communicate with us by giving us a call in here. You can email us at EyeOnMuskegon@gmail.com. You can give me a call, actually at home if you like, which is 231-421-4409. And all that information, by the way, is on the EyeOnMuskegon.com website. So if you've got some information about something that you think we ought to be talking about on the show, give us a call. We are looking at some allegations, and we're not going to do anything about those allegations till we get some proof, but against certain members in local government here. Things that have not been reported by the Muskegon Chronicle or any other reporting outlet. And, this kind of brings up something that really offended me. Many of you may recall we had a long-term state senator, Phil Arthur-Holtz, up from the Whitehall-Montague area. He'd been, I think, a lobbyist in Lansing now for maybe the last 20 or so years. But he was a state senator, fairly highly regarded, when he decided to retire. And make a little more money, I guess, as a lobbyist. But he was arrested a few months back for some type of child abuse.
I think it was in the molestation type of abuse.
Something that was pretty nasty, and they had a god-awful picture of him. The mugshot really was awful, and this was literally front-paged all over, certainly West Michigan, and I'm sure in the Lansing area. Well, very quietly, just a few weeks ago, maybe about a month ago, he was absolutely, if not exonerated, all the charges were dropped. And unlike many of the news outlets here in our community, we're not going to be jumping on things like that, we hope, at least not intentionally. I don't know where Mr. Arthur-Holtz gets his reputation back, but it sure seems to me that that's one of the worst things that you can be charged with. And then fairly quickly have the entire case collapse and say, never mind.
Well, he's certainly not going to get it back from the media, because this is the first I've heard that he has been exonerated.
Yeah, well, that's right. It was quiet. It was reported, I think, I saw it someplace online.
But not front page.
Not front page. And he wasn't exonerated. They just dropped the charges, so they didn't say you didn't do it. So right now we all say, well, he probably did it, and of course that's there's no fact to base any kind of judgment on that. So we are going to try to avoid that. And one thing I will say, hang on for sure, because in the 9 o'clock hour we've got I think it's going to be a fascinating guest. Scott Hagerstrom, who is the state director of AFP, that's Americans for Prosperity, and his group, a quote from their website, AFP is, quote, a statewide organization of 65,000 activists committed to strengthening our constitutional government, establishing fiscal restraint, and giving taxpayers greater control over government. And if you are a listener to this show, I'm sure that you share in certainly all three of those goals. That's what this show is all about. In particular, giving taxpayers greater control over government, and one of the way to do that, of course, is transparency. And letting folks know what's going on. And again, as you just mentioned, Andy, with Senator Arthur-Holtz, the newspapers were really having a great old time ginning up front page stories. They weren't quite so as interested in providing the rest of the facts. So there we go.
There we go.
They're just all following the entertainment. Magazine things.
Yeah.
Well, and it's exactly. Yeah. They have in far too many instances they have devolved down into The View and into Entertainment Tonight and things of that sort, and to the detriment of the rest of the community.
I'd like to remind you, though, what Alice Roosevelt Longworth once said.
Because I've forgotten that.
And what she said was, if you can't say something nice about someone, well, sit right down here beside me.
Well, that's an interesting thought, because I've certainly made some commentary about certain elected government officials, not necessarily specifically, but my sense of respect for them is not all that great. And yet they have been invited in. And as a matter of fact, if you are a listening elected official or a leader in the community and you would like to come on the show and have your opportunity to do what Andy just suggested, sit next to me, sit next to us, and get on the air, we'd love to have you in. So, again, you've got those phone numbers. The easiest way to get in touch with us, of course, is to go to EyeOnMuskegon.com. One thing I like to do is this, things that have happened in this day in history. And this was a bad day in history if you were a German, but I found it interesting the way that this particular historical site brought this news out. In 1527, and Andy, I'm sure you're enough of an historical junkie that this might be familiar to you. Maybe not familiar, but you know what happened.
1527.
You've read about it. Actually, you might have been there, as a matter of fact. But Andy's, by the way, is looking good lately. Lost a little weight. Andy is buffing up. Well, getting ready for Speedo time on our beautiful Lake Michigan shoreline. But anyway,
just let me know when you're going out. I won't be there. But anyway,
on this day in 1527. I won't say the first word. Troops began sacking Rome, bringing about the end of the Renaissance. Except they don't call them the Huns. They call them German troops began sacking Rome, which I thought was kind of interesting because Germany, of course, didn't exist in 1527. But a bunch of bad things happened if you're German. In 1937, the Hindenburg, that big airship that blew up and burned in Lakehurst, New Jersey, that happened on this day in history. And if you are a German, another very bad thing happened in 1941. Joseph Stalin assumed the Soviet premiership. Bad.
In 1941?
That's what it says here. Yeah, he was a big dude there for a very long time.
Well, he was the head of the Communist Party from the early 20s.
Well,
which means he was the dictator.
Andy, this is on the internet. It's got to be true. But the 1941 is questionable. As a matter of fact, the interesting thing is, I think that he didn't the Soviets invade Germany in 41. So nonetheless, other good things happened. In 1960, President Eisenhower, a Republican, signed the first Civil Rights Act of 1960. Well, it was the first Civil Rights Act, but it was the Civil Rights Act of 1960. Signed that on this day in 1960. And another one I found kind of interesting. In 1957, a U.S. senator was awarded the Pulitzer Prize for his book, Profiles in Courage. And, of course, that senator was John F. Kennedy. And, of course, it's since come out that he had nothing to do with the book. He had hired another Pulitzer Prize-winning author to write the book. And as we're finding out from our current president's autobiography, that it might have been an autobiography, and certainly there's some questions as to who really, in fact, wrote it. But the president is now disavowing much of what was written.
That's kind of like what they did to Ted Nugent. In his book, he said that some of the characters were composites.
That's
so this
true.
is not recent news. It's just recently read by the mainstream media.
Well, okay, there we go. I'll go along with that. You win that one. And Roger Miller was trying to get you to stop saying that. We didn't want the truth to come out, but we will be back shortly.
Hydroponic Outlet has it all. Complete light systems, hydroponics, ventilation, nutrients, and soil. In Holland, Grand Haven, and South Haven. Check out Torched Glass Art Studio next to the Holland store, creating one-of-a-kind glass pipes.
Double O Audio and Video offer a unique blend of services with life stories, memorials, documentaries, along with HD commercials and video editing, music video, all with some of the best prices offered and years of experience on top. Also, Double O Audio and Video offer video transfers, 8mm, Super 8, VHS, VHC, slides, all formats transferred to high-quality DVD. Double O Audio and Video. Go on the website at oo-video.com. Double O Audio and Video.
The Exquisite Corpse. A very unusual and completely amazing story pieced together out of so many parts that it is not possible to describe them all here, so go ahead and just start reading. The full moon lights the silver rails winding around dark mountains and over steep gorges of jagged rock and one freezing cold, rushing black mountain river. I wish there was enough time to describe all of the funny twists and turns, especially the elephant clown party, that led up to now, but there isn't enough time because there is a ticking clock, and the two passengers we care most about don't know anything about it. In a sleeping berth in the third car from the end of the train are two children, 11-year-old twins who have just run away from the circus. The girl's name is Nancy, the boy's name is Joe. They have no idea that those are not their true names, though they will figure it out soon enough. To see what happens next, visit read.gov to read The Exquisite Corpse, a riveting adventure pieced together by John Sheska, Shannon Hale, Daniel Handler, and other popular authors. Explore new worlds. Read. This exciting message is brought to you by the Library of Congress and the Ad Council.
America had just gone to war when Felipe Adams volunteered.
I took a bullet to the side and left me paralyzed.
For Armando de la Rosa, the Navy was a chance to serve and see the world.
I got medically discharged in 2001.
For injured veterans like Felipe Adams, there are veterans like Armando de la Rosa ready to help.
Our training is to better the veteran.
Paralyzed Veterans of America, changing lives, building futures. Visit PVA.org.
In every pocket of my clothes, where you at?
And we are back again. Eye on Muskegon. Andy Fink, the professor, is with us. Oscar Osbo, the legendary Oscar Osbo. And as we just found out, the reader of the entire book, what was it? What was the title of President Obama's autobiography?
How I'm Going to Become President?
No, something of my father or Faith of my father, something along those lines. Very impressed. Anytime, I think biography, autobiography.
Read on occasion, yeah.
Well, it's you wouldn't know all this stuff if you weren't out there looking around, and that's what we do. We enjoy the news and we look around for things that are of interest to us, and in my case, and I think in the rest of us too, many of those things, it turns out, are going to cost us money down the road. One thing I would like to just make one clarification, if I might. Last week I mentioned a Winston Churchill quote, and I'll repeat the quote. Criticism may not be agreeable, but it is necessary. It fulfills the same function as pain in the human body. It calls attention to an unhealthy state of things. And this show, and myself in particular, have been criticized for being critical and engaging in criticism of our elected officials. And I welcome criticism of the show. And even wacky criticism is kind of interesting. But our intent here, when we do criticize, is not purely to demonize or to criticize or to say how awful people are. Our intent is for those folks to ultimately change their behavior, especially those folks who we have empowered with the tools to really make change here in this county. And I think this is an important point for anybody to understand, that the three of us here, for instance, we might have a little more power than somebody sitting at home because we're on the radio, okay? But we go to the polls every so often, and Andy is flexing. But we go to the polls every so often, and we elect folks we don't just make them famous because they've been elected. We give them the power to do things that we cannot do ourselves. They have the power to spend and to be efficient and be inefficient, to hire people, to make significant policy changes at just about every level. So we really are depending on them to have good judgment. And quite often we're finding that much of that judgment is either not good judgment or it's last week, our guest was County Commissioner Alan Jagger, who said, you folks want us to spend $2.35 million to bail out Brookhaven. I haven't had enough time to research this to find out if this is a good idea or not. And he was voted down. He just simply asked for more time to do his job, and he was voted down 10-1. Every other commissioner said, no, we got plenty of time, or you've had plenty of time to make this, do this research. Let's go. And of course, they were then forced to revote a couple weeks afterwards. So our criticism is not intended to be purely criticism. Our criticism is intended to encourage those folks who we have entrusted, given the faith that they will do the right thing. Well, we're encouraging them to do the right thing, and if we feel that they're not doing the right thing, then we're going to come back and bop them on the head, metaphorically.
But to paraphrase Winston Churchill, that makes you a pain in the neck.
Absolutely. Does not make me popular.
Well, yeah, I was going to say it was a nice article in the Beacon too about a nice little picture of you in your red, white, and blue shirt.
Oh yeah, that was the Beacon did a nice job there. Well,
I didn't mention us though, which we thought was kind of odd, you know. But
well, that's people are like that.
Yeah.
You never hear about the people in the White House who are actually making the decisions. It's always Mr. Obama.
That's right.
Well, this show would not be around. Boy, I'll tell you one thing. It would not be around if it wasn't for Oscar. Absolutely. He runs the show here. It makes awful coffee, but he besides that, he does a good job. And wonderful co-hosts like Andy. Hey, a couple of other quick things I want to jump on, and Andy, feel free to jump in here too. But there's been a change at the county level in terms of some meetings that they're going to have this coming week, and they're going to be quite interesting. And, of course, I'll be at Carmen's Cafe Tuesday and Thursday from 2 till about 3:15 prior to those meetings, and everyone and anyone is welcome to join me. But this coming Thursday, there's supposed to be a Public Works meeting, standard schedule, but now they're going to have something called, I've never seen this before, a special full board meeting on Thursday, May 10th, following the Public Works meeting. So if you show up at 3:30 at the county building, 4th floor, you will see whatever they're going to have on the Public Works meeting, and then shortly after that, just minutes after that, I'm sure, there will be what they call a special full board meeting. I have no clue what that's about.
And have they posted the agenda?
No, they have not done that.
If they know enough to call the full board meeting for a special meeting, wouldn't you think they would know enough to know what the topic was so they could tell the public when they schedule the meeting?
Well, this is that's a great question. This is another reason why other folks have, quite a few people have jumped out or jumped into running for office at the county commission level. Alan Jagger, again, the lone wolf out there, county commissioner, at the first meeting in January when they were all sworn in, specifically made a motion, said, I would like to have more time. It's ridiculous that we get this information and 2 days later, or in some cases 1 day later, actually in some instances on the same day, we're forced to vote on it. And he said, I'd like to be able to have 7 days that the public would have an opportunity to look at whatever it happens to be that we're talking about. And we would not only as commissioners, and I thought he brought up a very interesting point. He said, the commissioners will get the information, but then we can take it to our public and find out what they think about it, so it'll help us in making our vote. That request didn't even get a second, so there wasn't even a recorded vote on that, but we do have it on video, thankfully, and that's one of the reasons that we do video, is because things of that sort, if somebody makes a motion and the motion fails, it is not listed in the official minutes. How convenient. So anyway, that meeting's coming up, and I would strongly recommend that you put this in your calendar. This is on May 22nd, Tuesday, May 22nd at 1:30 p.m. The board will have what they call their board planning session. These are the meetings that they don't want you to go to. These are the meetings, even though they are required under the Open Meetings Act to be public, that they expect you won't go to. They're at the Training Center Room 202, which is the old Baker College campus. One of the reasons that I started going to Carmen's Cafe prior to these meetings was to meet with people so I could show them where to go. And again, if you're interested in that, write it on your calendar. Tuesday, May 22nd, 1:30, the training room 202, which is not in the county building. It's in the Baker College, right there on Apple. I'll have more information about this.
Is this the complex that the county clerk now is at?
Correct, yes. It's not in the county clerk's building. It's the building next door. But it's a little hard to get to if you've not been there before. But it's likely to be an important meeting. I will video it and post it online. Those are things that I think matter. Hey, one of the biggest things going on this week, and we're always running out of time, but it's been the Causeway.
What a nightmare.
Confabulation, if you will. And it has been a nightmare. And a couple of points that came to me just quickly, and I'd like maybe when we're done with Scott, if we have a few minutes to come back and talk about it. But I happened to see on television a spokesman for the Highway Department who said specifically, we didn't expect that these two projects would overrun. The first project was expected to be done by now. But I spoke with somebody from Senator Hansen's office, And they said that they saw this early, even contacted the highway department and said, no, this thing was supposed to run through June. That's the construction on the bridge up on 31 North. So somebody is they're feeling the heat. The only way that we're going to have any way to keep this from happening again is to contact and call your state representative, that'd be Holly Hughes, and Marcia Hovey Wright, or your state senator, and your county commissioner. That's their job to put the heat on these folks in Lansing. We have power. In particular, it's an election year.
I have done that. I wrote when I discovered that the hot rod group was coming in at a time that the causeway might still be closed.
John Van Wyck is nervous as can be. Now, they're told that's not going to be the case, but of course, sometimes we're told things that don't happen to be.
After the break, I'll tell you.
All right, we'll be back after the break.
Oh, don't you love me sometime?
There's hundreds of fun and simple things you and your...
A select group of artists and bands had dreams of being named the Macy's 2012 iHeartRadio Rising Star. But only one can win. Now, we're down to 5 finalists, and it's up to you to decide who will be the overall champion and become the opening act at this year's iHeartRadio Music Festival.
Hate me.
Go online, check out their tunes, and vote for your favorite right now. Log on to iHeartRadio.com/Macy's.
Double O Audio and Video offer a unique blend of services with life stories, memorials, documentaries, along with HD commercials and video editing, music video, all with some of the best prices offered and years of experience on top. Also, Double O Audio and Video offer video transfers, 8mm, Super 8, VHS, VHC, slides, all formats transferred to high-quality DVD. Double O Audio and Video. Go on the website at oo-video.com. Double O Audio and Video.
Army Specialist Andrew Pike became paralyzed while serving in Iraq.
My injury was a gunshot wound to the left abdomen from a sniper. My first contact with paralyzed veterans was in Walter Reed.
Paralyzed veterans National Service Officer Michael Killen.
We try to reassure them what benefits are out there, try to educate them and take some of that stress away from them.
Right now I'm going back to school to earn a degree, and I'm just spending time with my wife and child.
You can help our paralyzed veterans. Visit pva.org.
Car number 7 is pulling into the pit.
What's my winning diabetes plan?
Start taking action now for diabetes.
Medications.
Got them. And my insulin supplies.
Exercise.
Most days.
Blood sugar level on target.
Diet. Eating healthy.
A1C under control.
Managing diabetes, including controlling blood sugar, is a team effort that requires a plan that's right for you. For more information, visit standfordiabetes.org.
A public service of TCOYD made possible with support from Sanofi Aventis US.
Here's the official News Talk 1090 WKBZ forecast. Today starting off cloudy in the morning and then a chance of showers developing this afternoon with a high of 76. Southeast winds 10 to 20. Showers and thunder showers are likely tonight and tomorrow. Tonight's low 52. The high tomorrow around 65 with northeast winds 10 to 20. A chance of rain still for Tuesday with a high of 61. And we may see some showers around again on Wednesday with a high of 57. News Talk 1090 WKBZ, the talk of Muskegon.
There's enormous support on the right for the Supreme Court's Citizens United decision, which gave corporations unlimited power over our politics, basically allowing them to run their own corporate candidates anywhere from a local election to a state election to President of the United States. In fact, you could argue that the Supreme Court here did what Mussolini did in Italy in 1934, only under a different name. This is the definition of rule by corporations, which is the dictionary definition of fascism.
The Tom Hartman Program. Catch it weekday evenings at 5 on News Talk 1090 WKBZ.
In every pocket of my clothes.
And we're back. Eye on Muskegon, the #1 rated political talk radio show in Muskegon County, and the #1 rated show of any kind at all. Take that, you polka dancers, you hard rockers, you country music guys. We are #1 on Sunday mornings, and it's wonderful folks like you listening out there that allow that to happen. But also, you can listen to us live on your computer and on your smartphone. Just go to newstalk1090.com. That's newstalk1090.com. And
I think the professor and I are going to start a new show called Bongos Are Us, and we'll just play bongos and see if we can beat your show. What do you think?
You guys, this is a very cruel little studio here.
I know. What can I say?
If bongos beat this show, which actually, if you do look at the folks, who show up at some of these municipal meetings, maybe bongos would be more exciting. But
well, if Francine just goes on vacation, your readership falls. Your listenership falls.
That's true. It's about 80% decline when family members have an internet connection problem too.
Hey,
so
I got all my grandkids. That's why they listen to me on Sunday. But anyway,
well, I'll tell you, the more importantly, the folks that do either listen to us or at least are aware of what we talk about are some of the elected officials, and hopefully we are helping them in their decision making process, so that at some point we will we'll be acting about our elected officials in the same manner that we are acting with Commissioner Alan Jagger. And as promised, we do have Scott Hagerstrom from the AFP folks. He just called us in, so we're fumbling around here a little bit to get him going. Scott, are you online?
I am online.
There we go.
I am online.
All righty. Well, glad you called in. Good morning, and how's your day going?
It's going great. How's yours?
Well, so far it's wonderful, and we got kind of nice Sunday weather out there that you don't have to feel too guilty sitting inside. But as always, I'm sitting here with Andy Fink, who's a retired attorney, and Oscar Osbo, the legendary Oscar Osbo, running the board. And Scott, if I could just jump to it, as my email to you yesterday, you folks have had a lot of things going on lately. You just had a big event. Was it in Lansing or Grand Rapids yesterday?
We were in Lansing yesterday. We were in Grand Rapids the week before.
Okay, and you want to tell the folks about that?
Sure. We're talking about energy and the great energy resources that our country has. If just our government would not stand in the way between us and being able to utilize those energy resources. U.S. Senator Debbie Stabenow has voted continually 6 times against exploring ANWR. She voted twice this year against building the Keystone Pipeline. She claims to be for jobs and bringing jobs here to Michigan, but yet her voting record does not jive with her rhetoric.
Now, I'm remiss in not just giving folks a little bit of a background on AFP, which is Americans for Prosperity. That's a national organization, and you are the state chairman of the Michigan branch, I guess we would call it, the Michigan, what would be the word
chapter?
There? The Michigan chapter?
Yes. Americans for Prosperity is a national organization dedicated to limited government and economic liberty, and we advocate for those things, and we engage citizens. We have over 2 million members nationwide. We have over 71,000 members right here in Michigan. And I'm a lifelong Michigan resident. I raising my 4 kids here in Michigan. And, Americans for Prosperity just wants to see prosperity come back to our country and to our state, and real prosperity here in Michigan, especially. In 1965, Michigan was 9th in per capita personal income. Last year, we were 39th, and we actually, 2 years ago, we were 39th, and last year we jumped up to 36th. But we have to keep that trend going. We want to be a top 10 state again. We want to be competitive. We want to be a prosperous state. And a lot of people say, well, you're greedy, it's about money. It's really not about money. It's about our quality of life. It really is about our quality of life. It's to be able to send our kids to college. It's about taking vacations. It's about our health and our environment. And studies show that those countries that are the most economically free have the least amount of poverty, have the cleanest environments. And I could just go right on down a list, but the benefits are just go on and on and on.
So you say you have 2 million members nationwide, and I think I saw someplace that there are 65,000 members in Michigan.
71,000 now, he just said, yeah.
Do these members have any input as to what issues you adopt, or is that a top-down agenda?
No, we take input from members. We're very laser focused on limited government and economic liberty. We don't get involved in any social issues. We don't get involved in immigration issues. We don't get involved in national defense. So it's very economic liberty orientated, limited government. And yeah, we take input from our members, and as far as the issues that we take up here in Michigan, that's decided here at the state level. And for example, we get involved in local millages. We hear from our members. They call us up and say, hey, they're looking to push a property tax increase in my community. We'd like to organize and work against that. Is there anything that you can do to assist? And we go in and we assist and them with those efforts. And we don't always go in and oppose everything, but if it makes strategic sense to go in and impose something and it would be harmful to the economy and it grows government, then certainly we'll go in and want to oppose that.
Well, this is interesting to me, Scott. I didn't realize that you were a resource to citizens who are interested in getting some help. And I would just like to go back to what you said earlier. People who would say it's all about greed. Well, of course it's all about greed and money. Certainly the people who want the money being spent, they want to get the money, or at least they want the ability to get whatever benefits they expect to receive from giving the money out, and the money, any money taken or borrowed from people comes out of their own pockets, out of our own pockets of the citizens and those who suffer from bad roads, perhaps, or slow repair on those roads. So you bet I don't have a problem with anybody bringing up greed or it's about money, because money does matter. And I would always say to those folks who say we ought to be more socialistic, or of course the Occupy Wall Street folks who are pretty much out and out saying they want us to be communistic in many cases. Show me the place where you'd like to move to. Show me the place that works so well. I mean, the sad thing for the people who espouse those thoughts is they keep having to jump around country to country. It wasn't that long ago the country that was in everybody's perfect model for healthcare was Canada. You don't hear anybody talking about Canadian healthcare any longer. But that's a different issue.
Well,
certainly, if I feel like it's about money on the other side, and this is our time when we go out and work. The citizens of Michigan work very hard, and they earn a living, and they should be able to keep the fruits of their labor, and they work very hard. That's time spent away from their families, and we have greedy politicians in Washington, D.C. that want to take more and more money, or they want to take from our grandkids, and they're taking from our grandkids by getting our country further and further and further in debt. We have someone like Debbie Stabenow who is a complete hypocrite. During the Bush administration, she argued against raising the national debt. And then she turns around and says we have to raise the debt levels under President Obama. She is just playing politics, plain and simple. And we need to send her a message that that is not acceptable. We need a coherent policy. We did some polling, and 3/4 of all Michigan residents, 75% believe building the Keystone Pipeline will be good for Michigan. And it will be. It will create 3,000 jobs right here in Michigan. 3/4 of all people believe passing a balanced budget amendment would be good for the Michigan economy. 3/4 of all Michigan residents believe we need to get national spending under control by cutting spending and not raising taxes. What we also found, and this is where the disconnect is, that a majority of self-described economic liberals and union households agree with us on all three of those issues. We need to get the message out and fight that disconnect and let people know about Debbie Stabenow's voting record.
Well, you know, I can't agree with you more, and I'm glad. Thank you for being on the show, because many people don't know those statistics. Matter of fact, I've heard many times that on television, even, that, you know, folks don't want balanced budget. They don't want, you know, the Keystone pipeline has got so many problems that it's best not to be completed, or I guess it's in partial completion at this point, but. And, of course, almost every single elected Democrat at the national level is in support of the president's efforts to keep Keystone from coming about. Debbie Stabenow is running for a third term, which would make her, she's already got almost 12 years under her belt, and this would add another 6. I know that I see that she's, as is typical for folks who are looking to get reelected, she's now coming up with great ideas to help the economy. And I see that one that apparently she's decided is a winner for her. She wants to give a 20% tax break to companies who hire workers. How is that going to work? And if it's a good idea, why wouldn't we do? You know, why is she the smartest person in town?
You know, again, it's just more rhetoric from the senator here from Michigan. She's been in there for 12 years, and if you look at our record over the past 12 years, the increase in gas prices, the recent health care takeover, the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of lost jobs, the voting against Keystone is an example. You know, Stryker Corporation in Kalamazoo, after the health care bill passed, after their analysis of the health care bill, they said they were going to have to lay off 1,000 people. You know, we've documented a lot of this in our website, thanksalotdebbie.com, and people can go there and read the rhetoric. Or, I'm sorry, not the rhetoric. Read about her rhetoric and read about her record, and see that. Look at the facts. Look at her voting record. You know, don't just listen to her. We have to look at her voting record. She does have a record, and that record is not supportive at all of Michigan's economy. It's diametrically opposed to our economy. And if you want to hear something about how she makes decisions, she was quoted by the Detroit News as saying that I know global warming is real because I can feel it when I fly. Now, isn't it always the left lecturing us about looking to real science? Well, let's look to real science when we're looking at energy production. Let's look to real science when we're looking at other, you know, a lot of these important decisions. But yet she's going purely on emotion on a lot of these issues, and that's just not the way to run our country.
I had heard that quote. I didn't realize it was Debbie Stabenow who'd said it.
I can feel it when I fly?
Yes.
Well, I know that Debbie has been, apparently, from what I've read, now that she's newly single, her husband at the time, of course, was caught with a prostitute who, interestingly, the prostitute went to jail, but Debbie's husband did not.
Was he in the Secret Service?
Apparently not. Nobody really knows, but they subsequently, Senator Stabenow and her husband did divorce. And now she's losing weight. But, you know, just getting back to that issue.
Maybe the girdle was too tight when she said that statement.
Well, you know, look, I'm not going to go after folks on their weight at all, but although we do have a newly svelte Andy Fink in here. But we call him Speedo Fink here. But you know, it's kind of interesting in terms of getting the word out. And Scott, I know you got a tough job. As do we here, trying to get folks knowledgeable. But I read an interesting article, I think it was maybe about a year ago or so, it might have been a little bit longer than that, where a Detroit News or Detroit Free Press reporter says, sheesh, you know, I remember that the senator had some problems with her husband and a prostitute and all, and I wonder how, you know, what the repercussions of that, because that can't be good for a marriage. Well, interestingly, this reporter found out that Debbie Stabenow and her husband had been divorced like 6 or 10 months earlier. In other words, here you have a sitting, only 2 senators in our state, a sitting senator who gets a divorce after a big, bloody, ugly situation where her husband is involved with a prostitute, and not one media outlet in the country bothered to report it until this one curious reporter months and months and months after the fact.
It's none of our business, and I'm surprised we're spending so much time on it here.
Well, if it was a Republican, it most certainly would have been front page. It wouldn't have been, and I'm not suggesting that we ought to be going into their private life, although it seems to me that when a senator's spouse is violating the law, especially a female senator who espouses women's rights, I do think that that's newsworthy. But notwithstanding the specifics of this particular case, you can be sure that if it was a Republican senator or maybe even a Republican state senator named Arthur Holtz, that there would be front page publicity there. The point is, my point here is that we have a very tough time getting the word out, as I'm sure that you do, you folks do, from what I've been able to see, a lot of good research. We appreciate that.
Yeah, we do have a tough time getting the word out, and you have to use social media, email, Facebook, Twitter, and radio programs like this are great to get the word out. And we do have a lot of hurdles to climb. For example, right here in Lansing, there was a protest last year by the Occupy movement, and it made the front page of the B section on a Sunday paper. And guess how many people showed up? 14 people. 14 people that huge pictures.
The front page?
Yeah, and I we have rallies with 1,000 people, and you don't get one media person to show up, and we alert them. We send out press releases. We call them. We ask, and they don't come. But yet, when Occupy has a rally, something interesting about Debbie Stabenow's husband is he was executive in some of the left-wing media outlets. Like Air America and some of these other outlets that are trying to compete with shows like Rush Limbaugh.
So he was an executive with Air America then?
Yep, look him up.
Okay.
If you look him up on Wikipedia, he's very involved in left-wing media. So I find that very interesting. But, there's a lot of issues out here, and yeah, we don't try to get personal. We try to keep it to the issues because, there's enough material there on her record that the people of Michigan should know about, and the people of Michigan are going to have to make some very important decisions this year, and they just need to know that she voted against the balanced budget amendment. She voted against Keystone. She voted against ANWR. She votes against spending cuts. She's been there for 12 years, and now she comes out with a jobs package. Really? She votes against the interests of businesses, small businesses. She votes against the interests of manufacturing. But then she turns around and tries to use her sweet rhetoric to hide her voting record. And if people just look at her voting record, it is not friendly to our economy. And anyone that's lived in Michigan knows what we've gone through over the past 12 years.
Well, since Debbie has been...
I would say for Debbie Stabenow, we ran a campaign 2 years ago called November is Coming, and I would say that her November is coming this year.
Well, we would hope that whoever she's running against will be able to present a platform of sorts that will make us want to vote for that person as opposed to just voting against Debbie. I'm looking at some statistics that were sent to me, and I can only assume that they're accurate. It certainly seems like it would be. But it shows that the Michigan's payroll employment during Stabenow's term as our 2 terms as a United States Senator representing our state on a national level, of course, and so these numbers do matter. When she took over, we had a 4.6, almost 4.7 million employees, payroll employees in the state, 4.7 million. Now we have about 3.9 million, and that's after almost 12 years of Debbie Stabenow advocating for the state of Michigan. So it's one thing to tell us what you're going to do and have good and kind thoughts. It's another thing, though, to look at the reality, the results of your efforts. And, of course, in this instance, the millions, or not millions, but certainly hundreds of thousands of Michigan residents don't have jobs, and those jobs are gone elsewhere, who knows where.
And most of those were good-paying jobs, too, manufacturing jobs.
Well, and obviously it's not all her fault, but the facts are there that, okay, what have you done for me? And it always seemed to me, especially a two-term politician at any level, okay, you've had plenty of time to be there. You haven't delivered. Now you're coming up with these really cool ideas. Maybe it is time for somebody else. Hey, I'm going to shift gears here a little bit because one of the things I want to talk about is that I've noticed that you folks at AFP have been running lots of ads against the bridge. the bridge that Governor Snyder and certain folks in Lansing want to have somebody has got to pay for it to build this bridge from Michigan over to Canada. Now, I've heard lots of lots of reasons why we need the bridge, and I've seen your ads, and they seem to be somewhat compelling, but everybody knows, a 30-second ad doesn't tell the whole story. Can you give your side of it, and maybe we can attack you a little bit, or at least ask you some cogent questions about it?
Sure. Well, first to clarify, we haven't done much of anything on the bridge since the legislative victory last fall, when it was defeated for the third time in the House, in the Senate, and those ads are being run by a different entity that is not Americans for Prosperity. But we are opposed to the building of a government bridge into Canada. A couple things. There is so many compelling reasons. Traffic is down over 40% in the past 12 years. Last year, the governor was saying, well, won't cost a dime, won't cost taxpayers a dime. Well, the taxpayers already have $40 to $50 million into this in studies and other investments looking at this. They also said that was not a loan. The $550 million from Canada was not a loan. Well, a funny thing happened in the past few weeks. They sort of switched their rhetoric and said it's an advance and they will get paid back. So it is a loan. It is a loan. So we just want to get the facts straight, and we want people to know what's going on. And with 40% traffic down, we don't need another bridge. Gary Wolfram, economist at Hillsdale, wrote that if they would have built the bridge when they wanted to back in 2005, and now would be in bankruptcy because there was not enough traffic to warrant paying the upkeep and the bonds that would have to be floated. And the other thing that this administration forgets is that we are also federal taxpayers. They're counting on hundreds of millions of dollars in federal tax dollars to help fund this project. And if you look at the bill, even if you think there should be a bridge, look at this 35-page bill. It says that authority members can have a conflict of interest. It just can't be substantial, but they don't define substantial. It has a great big exception to the Freedom of Information Act. It demands that the contractor bid on this pay prevailing wage. It says right in the bill that they can pay unions and union bosses as consultants. That's right in the bill. So even if you think that we need a bridge, despite traffic being down 40%, look at the bill, and it has so many payoffs to so many different groups and so many things that are just disgusting.
Scott, can we hang you over here over the break? I'd like to go into this just a little deeper if we could.
Sure.
Okay, well, we'll be back with Scott Hagerstrom of Americans for Prosperity, Michigan, right after this break.
Love me sometime.
You know, providing for the kiddos can be expensive. Dave Ramsey here with a money-saving tip for parents. It's called Once Upon a Child. Once Upon a Child is a children's resale store that buys and sells gently used clothing, toys, and equipment. Once Upon a Child is a great store for parents with children of all ages. They buy children's clothing in sizes from newborn to youth size 16. So, if you've outgrown clothing that are still in excellent condition from brands like Gap, Old Navy, American Eagle, Gymboree, and more, why not sell them for cash at Once Upon a Child? Or sell your kids toys and equipment. While you're there, take a look around. You'll be amazed by the quality and selection that they have to offer. Once Upon a Child has 2 locations on 28th Street in Wyoming Village Mall, 3 miles west of Highway 131, and now their new larger location on Alpine Avenue in Walker by Starbucks. Visit onceuponachild.gr.com.
Double Audio and Video offer a unique blend of services with life stories, memorials, documentaries, along with HD commercials and video editing, music video, all with some of the best prices offered and years of experience on top. Also, Double Audio and Video offer video transfers, 8mm, Super 8, VHS, VHC, slides, all formats to high-quality DVD. Double Audio and Video. Go on the website at oo-video.com. Double O Audio and Video.
At Home with Gary Sullivan.
I wanted to move the washer and the dryer over to the other side of the house. We're putting in the drain line right now, so we tapped into the main drain. We put a TY joint on there, and then we used some rubber couplings with the metal screw tighteners on there, and I ran some water through there. It is leaking a little bit.
Get like a drill wire brush, go around where that connection is going to be made to make sure we make it nice and smooth. And then just torque that down again and see if that doesn't take care of it.
Catch the show Sunday afternoons at 6 on News Talk 1090 WKBZ. The Talk of Muskegon.
Well, you dadgum government, you sorry so-and-sos. You got your damn hands in every pocket of my clothes. Well, you
And we're back at EyeOnMuskegon. Roger Miller complaining about those folks putting their hands in every pocket of his clothes. And we are with Andy Fink, Oscar Osbo, and Americans for Prosperity's Scott Hagerstrom. And Scott's warning us, alerting us to the fact that there are lots of folks out there who are interested in putting their hands in more of the pockets of our clothes. But Andy, off air, you had a little discussion. Why don't you take it from here?
Yes, when I was looking you up online, I found that many people who are opposed to you, and I think it was a lot of people who support the bridge, noted the relationship of Americans for Prosperity and the Koch brothers. And I just thought that I just wanted to ask you: are you guys just an outreach by the Koch brothers, and you take your orders from them?
Oh, certainly not. Certainly not. The organization was founded by David Koch, and he is chairman of our Americans for Prosperity Foundation. And he is not on the board of our Americans for Prosperity, which is our C4, which allows us to go out and advocate against higher taxes, for limited government and economic liberty. But we have a very entrepreneurial philosophy in running the organization, and been around since 2003 here in Michigan, since 2006, and the market really decides whether we get to move forward. We've been able to obtain over 90,000 donors to our cause, over 3,000 donors here in Michigan. We all the money that we have to be able to reach out and to fight against these tax increases and government overreach is raised right here in Michigan. And actually in the past we've had a couple state chapters just shut down because there wasn't the demand for the message at that time. And so yeah, David Koch is chair of our Americans for Prosperity Foundation, but we're not a Koch organization, and we are very dedicated to free markets and economic liberty.
Well, the Koch brothers, from everything I've read, are very fine, upstanding, tax-paying, as opposed to Warren Buffett. They are tax-paying American citizens who've created thousands and thousands of jobs over the years. That's always kind of disappointed me that the left would somehow say, we know the name of someone who is supplying you with money, and therefore we can demonize that. There's no demonization out there. It's a conservative gentleman and brothers, I suppose, who are supporting you. People know me as a conservative. If I were to write you a check for $100, would I be then to demonize the Koch brothers and Jim Riley are supporting this awful, mean AFP? Maybe.
It seems like this class warfare just has to stop. We see it right here in Michigan. You have a family in the Maroons that want to invest $1 billion of their own money to build a bridge to Canada. You have Richard Thompson, who used to own Thompson McCauley Asphalt Company here in Michigan, who wanted to invest $200 million in charter schools in Detroit of his own money, own donation, and at the time, Mayor Kilpatrick and all the labor unions were in an uproar and said, no, we don't want your money. And you have someone like Tom Monahan, who owned Domino's Pizza, who wanted to invest $200 million to build Ave Maria Law School and undergraduate school in the Ann Arbor area. And the voters of Ann Arbor said, no, we don't want it. And so Tom Monahan took his $200 million and he went down to Florida and he built a beautiful campus for Ave Maria. And, we may not agree with these people, but, I want more people with money coming to Michigan and investing. That means jobs. That means construction. That means a higher quality of life. People that have money have it because that they know how to build a business. They have met a payroll. They've employed people, and we should learn from them, and we should take their money and their investment, because the only way we're going to bring great paying jobs back to Michigan is getting investment.
Well, it is to me always astounding. It truly is how people on the left, and even those at the Occupy protest all over the country, they revere Stephen Jobs. they spend their hard-earned money on Apple products. Apple is an enormously capitalistic company. Of course, it has manufacturing processes mostly out of the country. I think almost entirely out of the country, and yet they would be against whatever mythological corporate backing the Kochs come from. Let me. I want to bring just one other thing. Well, many other
I wanted
things.
to say something real quick.
Go ahead.
I was watching a documentary on Woodstock, and I didn't realize that Woodstock was financed by New York City bankers, and actually they made a movie and made a profit off of that.
Well, their intent was actually my roommate went to Woodstock. I'm old enough to have been I almost went, but yes, their intent was to make a lot of money. And ultimately, when the movie finally got made, they were able to, I think, break even. But a lot of folks lost lots of money in that. Well, again, there's a disconnect, and that's what you're trying to do, is to bring the information out. Just something that caught my attention. Michigan Democrats, quote, helping families with college tuition would boost economy. And this is an MLive article. But apparently, some number of Michigan state elected Democrats in the Senate say that the state, by granting $9,600 worth in scholarships to any college-bound student, would be investing in talent and boosting the economy. And so, in other words, every student who wanted to go to college, and Oscar, if you've got kids wanting to go to college, it'd be nice to get a $9,600 check. But, of course, all of this would have to be borrowed from these very young people who would be going to college. So the incredible thing to me is I think a lot of these college kids would still buy that math. In other words, give me something now, which will go almost entirely to the educational establishment, the big education, if you will. And I know I got to pay it back, but who cares? There is a lot of disconnect going on out there.
Well, they really want to socialize the debt. That's correct. And nothing is free. They have to reach into someone's pocket to pay for this. And this is just another. This proposal just doesn't make sense. A lot of the people who are graduating now, the young people, are just leaving the state. So we need policies that bring economic opportunity here. With that economic opportunity, people, education is an investment. People should invest in themselves and in their education. And some people can work and put themselves through college. Some people take longer, many years. Some people borrow the money and do it all at once, and they take that risk. And when they do take that risk, they feel the pressure, and they go out there and they get a job and they find a way to make it happen. And that's something that should not be bared upon the whole of society here in the state. And we're going to educate all these people with tax dollars, and right now our economy can't support it. They're just all going to leave. They're not going to be Michigan taxpayers.
Well, the problem is, yes, and we're seeing this in Illinois and other states, California, other states that have decided that they want to really spend in the dark, quietly on their own, spend and borrow for education. And at some point, Greece is a perfect example, but at some point the money runs out and then the entire system collapses. One thing Go ahead.
You know where a lot of the students are going. The per capita personal income is highest in Washington, D.C. at about $66,000, $67,000 per person. It's the highest in the country. So on average, if you want the best paying job possible, go to Washington, D.C. Second is Connecticut, way down at $54,000, a whole $12,000 lower. Michigan is about $35,000, $36,000 per capita personal income. So, the most affluent place in America is Washington, D.C., and that's a shame. And then you have politicians like Debbie Stabenow and Barack Obama that dare to say that we should pay more in taxes to filter it through the Washington, D.C. machine to hire more bureaucrats.
Yeah, well, that's an argument that they're going to make, and of course we're seeing Debbie is saying, well, wait a minute, I'm going to give a 20% tax break to companies to hire people. Well, I've owned companies before, and I know that if the government came out and said, I'll give you a 20% break to hire somebody, I'd say, well, how about if you give me 100% paying, because I'm not going to hire somebody I don't already need just because it's a little more expensive. And what I find interesting about that sort of upside down logic is the same people, the same government, for the most part Democrats, but Republicans have been on this board too. The same folks who tell us that if we give you a tax break for your employers, or your employees, you'll hire more employees. But if we increase the cost of your employees by raising the minimum wage or requiring that you provide them with health care and other policies, that won't inhibit your hiring of more employees. And of course, it's an upside down logic that only succeeds if, one, the word doesn't get out, it isn't analyzed, and folks like you are attempting to parse the information, and two, if the folks even have any interest in it. We may be the #1 rated show in our time slot this morning, but once the day gets going, the #1 rated shows tend to be music shows, unfortunately. and I know that even the news shows are now being regularly beaten by, Dancing with the Stars and you name it.
Well, one of the things, Jim, that the people who want the government to meddle in our affairs believe is that good intentions are the important factor, not good results. And so because we know that they intend to do good with their health care program, those of us against it must not like people.
Well, that's true. That's exactly true. And that's where, where there's so many folks in government, the left and right, are saying, the most important thing that we can do as far as education today is to put everybody in college. Well, that's an absurd comment if you think about it. One of the worst things, to me, one of the most egregious net results of that mindset is all of these young people who not only graduate owning enormous amounts of money, 10, 20, 50, 100 some $1,000s in government debt, but they have degrees that are essentially worthless, or they don't even graduate. And it would seem to me that now, the gasoline companies, oil companies that are, arguably the biggest, most demonized entities in our country, they are required to put their price per gallon up on big signs. That's a government, I believe it's a federal government requirement. I would like to see that any type of documentation, be it a sign or an application or whatever that comes to a college or a university, very specifically put their graduation rates within certain periods of times and split it up by degree program. Because for instance, that if you get a degree from, let's just say, Western Michigan University here, you get a degree in engineering, you're going to get a job. If you get a degree in communications or social science, almost for sure, if you get a job, it will not be a job, a college-level type job. It would be a nice job maybe at McDonald's or mowing somebody's lawn, because those jobs just don't exist.
So you like economic regulation, but just those regulations that you like?
Well, it's a regulation, but it seems to me that if we've got federal government coming out of the taxpayer's pocket, at least transparency of the loan. If you're going to go into a bank and borrow $100,000 from the bank, there is a requirement, if not morally, at least legally, there is a requirement that the bank tell you what your interest rates are going to be. And if you're going to make an investment, and that's what everybody's calling it, an investment in higher education, certainly you have to know what it's going to cost you financially. That is made available. But you also ought to know that the number of people, the percentage of folks who, #1, do graduate within, let's just say, 6 years or so in the College of Communications or the College of Psychology or whatever it may be, and how many of those get real jobs. It seems to me that's the kind of transparency, because that information then is obviously helpful to parents and children, but it's also helpful to the rest of us citizens out there when a politician comes to us and says, hey, we have to, just like the Democrats have said, we want to spend $2 billion to give students $9,600 checks to go to college. Well, then we might say, well, wait a minute now. It seems like, for instance, I saw not long ago one of the community colleges in the Detroit area had graduated within the various parameters. They have 2-year programs and 4-year programs, but within a parameter that was double the normal time, something like 1.6% of the students who entered ultimately got degrees that they were intending to get. And it would seem to me that that kind of information ought to be interesting, and it certainly shouldn't be hard to find.
Especially with public universities and public entities, they do need more oversight. I would argue if they're private, maybe we don't need those regulations. But you do make a good point that if federal dollars are flowing into students' hands at those private universities,
so we could exempt Hillsdale College from that.
Yeah, most definitely.
But not only that though, but also the thing about it is most kids when they get out of high school don't even have a clue what they're going to do, but they go to college anyway, and they spend 3 to 4 years in college just trying to figure out what they're going to do.
Well, that's fine if they're paying it with their own money.
No, but they're getting money for this, to do this. So shouldn't there be some kind of a restriction saying, okay, do you know what you're going for, your master or whatever you're going for? Do you know what it is before you lend them this money to just spend to figure out what they're going to do, what they're going to be when they grow up?
Well, again, I don't think that's a bad idea, Oscar. I'm sort of like Andy here. I don't want more regulations. I don't want more rules. But there are some things. The problem is we know where this is going, and Scott, you just alluded to it. Where this is all going is the socialization of this college debt. The President of the United States has already gone on record as saying, you owe too much money. This is unfair. The people like the Koch brothers and Scott Hagerstrom and Jim Riley, those nasty, mean people that are invoking federal laws to make you pay back this money, they're unfair folks. This is where we're going to go with this type of logic, and it seems to me that the only way to nip it in the bud, and of course it's long past the bud stage, but is to provide some transparency in really what type of product are these colleges, junior colleges, community colleges, and universities putting out. We can be sure that if they were putting out cars, there would be a recall. We can be sure if they were putting out airliners, there would be front-page air crashes everywhere, because the quality of what's being put out, and compared to the cost, and I don't just mean the cost of in dollars, I'm talking about the wasted hours and years of young people to put in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years even, and not get a degree, or to get a degree that has no value. Those are years that they could have been working at a job and actually doing something with their lives. So it's a much more complex issue.
I know a lot of kids, too, that are actually afraid of stopping school just because they don't want to pay their student loans back.
I've got a friend of mine.
When it's not your money, you don't take personal responsibility. But if you own it, if you're out there working a job to pay for it, then you're gonna pay attention and take responsibility.
Well, Scott, there's another issue, and Oscar just brought it up. I've got a friend of mine who's in his 40s who, in fact, has enormous college debt. And as long as he is taking a college class, which he gets, he borrows to take, he doesn't have to pay that debt back. Right. This is no different than the worst of the money loaning, the mafia type deals. The only difference is, instead of having the thugs come out to break your knees when you don't pay back, the thugs have nice suits, and they're going out to the taxpayers to get into every pocket of their clothes, just like Roger Miller has warned us that these folks want to do. Scott, we are just about out of time here. Thank you so much. I'd love to have you back. Good luck in your efforts out there. We didn't get really enough time to talk on any of the things that we wanted to, but we will have you back, and you have a great day. Thanks for visiting.
Nice talking to you, Scott.
Appreciate it.
Hi, this is Ed Schultz. You can catch me right here weekdays on the Ed Schultz Radio Show, where America comes to talk. If we allow Citizens United to run us over, and if we don't have a template to defeat this, we'll lose. We will have lost the democracy. There has to be an answer. I didn't vote for the Koch brothers to do anything, but we've opened the door to allow big money to influence politicians, cash whip them, and they say to hell with the people. Join me for the Ed Schultz Show.
Catch it weekdays at noon on News Talk 1090, WKBZ, the talk of Muskegon.
Serious about your growing operation? See Green Lantern H2O in Muskegon. They are the only hydroponic and organic growing supply outlet with a certified horticulturist and nurseryman on staff. Stop by today and let the ladies help you grow big. Open 7 days a week. See them today on Laketon Avenue and US 31 across from Checkers. Green Lantern H2O.
Double O Audio and Video offer a unique blend of services with life stories, memorials, documentaries, along with HD commercials and video editing, music video, all with some of the best prices offered and years of experience on top. Also, Double O Audio and Video offer video transfers, 8mm, Super 8, VHS, VHC, slides, all formats transferred to high-quality DVD. Double O Audio and Video. Go on the website at oo-video.com. Double O Audio and Video.
24,000 children die every day from preventable causes. My name is Salma Hayek, and I believe that number should be 0. Believe in 0.
Join the effort. Visit unicefusa.org.
Fox News Radio, I'm Liz White. 5 accused in the 9/11 attacks defiant at their Guantanamo Bay arraignment.
At one point, the civilian attorney for Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the self-described architect of the attack, told the judge, quote, Mr. Mohammed will decline to address the court, and he is deeply concerned about the process that brought him here. The judge, James Poole, responded, one cannot choose not to participate and frustrate the normal course of business.
Fox's Catherine Herridge. Attorney James Harrington represents defendant Ramzi bin al-Shib.
I'm sure you're aware of many, many cases where there are heinous offenses, and the public hates the persons that are charged. And the system our system tries to accommodate anyone and give them a fair trial.
NATO says the attacker who killed a service member today in southern Afghanistan wore an Afghan army uniform. Another service member died in a bombing in eastern Afghanistan. Fox News, we report, you decide.
Here's the official News Talk 1090 WKBZ forecast. Today starting off cloudy in the morning and then a chance of showers developing this afternoon with a high of 76. Southeast winds 10 to 20. Showers and thunder showers are likely tonight and tomorrow. Tonight's low 52. The high tomorrow around 65 with northeast winds 10 to 20. A chance of rain still for Tuesday with a high of 61. And we may see some showers around again on Wednesday with a high of 57. News Talk 1090 WKBZ, the talk of Muskegon.
Well, you dadgum government, you sorry so-and-sos. You got your damn hands in every pocket of my clothes. Well, you
Every pocket of my clothes, and it's never ending, folks. EyeOnMuskegon, back at you. We had I thought, an interesting conversation with Scott. I'm going to have him back, I hope, the American for Prosperity folks. One of the things I wanted to get to, and I would recommend you can find this on MuskegonPundit.com. AFP has got a national ad running, and of course today these ads, you can get everything on YouTube, and they've got an ad talking about the government spending. But what I find interesting though and I got a response, a couple of responses actually, from folks via Facebook that the ad that the AFP folks is filled with holes, and they go to something called PolitiFact, which is it's a left-wing group that's theoretically supposed to look at the facts of the various articles and advertisements that have been out there. And PolitiFact attacks it quite, I would say, believably, if you read their side of it. But then AFP has come out and then provided more information to the PolitiFact attack on their ad. So it's interesting if you follow it through. I would just say that anytime you see an advertisement or listen to the news, or you listen to a talk show like ours, you want to follow up on your own and do your own homework. We try to be as honest as we can, but we make mistakes, and we certainly have opinions. In particular, Andy, who quite often is incorrect, but he's corrected here.
He does wear Speedos, so
he does wear. Actually, no. Andy has been our corrector. Hey, a couple quick things. If you've got an event coming up that you'd like us to mention on air, email it to us. And again, go to the website, EyeOnMuskegon.com for that. But coming up, the Milwaukee Clippers going to have their annual benefit auction, which is I believe it's going to be at the Country Club, but they are looking for items to auction off, and truly, no matter where the Clipper's going to be, you want to be you do want to be in support of that. If you've got an item that might be of interest to them, if you got a pencil handy, their number is 722-2538, or you could just Google Milwaukee Clipper for that. Their event is going to be at the May 20th, a couple weeks. There's a few other things coming down the pike. We're going to wait for those as we get a little closer. But don't forget that the LST has opened up now, and they've got a lot of cool things planned. One of them is going to be the what they call the 7th Annual Armed Forces Day Memorial on board the LST, and that's May 19th, Saturday, May 19th. You can call them also at 288-4012 for information. Again, any one of these, you can pick up your Google. Al Gore invented Google, didn't he? Or was that global? Global. It was global warming, not Google. Anyway, you can find information there. But before the break, or before the Scott Hagerstrom got on, we were talking about the construction that's got a lot of attention here in Muskegon County, and I kind of had to make a condensed version of my conversation with the folks over at Senator Hansen's office, because in fact they said that they had seen that this double construction was going to be overlapping time-wise, and in fact the bridge work that is up north of the causeway, which has really caused the super problem here, was not intended, at least initially, to stop until sometime into June. And interestingly, after some of the noise was made, I guess there was work going on, certainly after normal work hours, maybe even into the evenings. But that happened because people made a stink. And the Chronicle, who I think generally has done a pretty good job on a lot of things, especially with their new kind of condensed version here. But they've been running articles. This is here's one: get creative, drivers. It's your only option. And the intent of this particular editorial is that, you've got to get creative, got to find different ways to get around, maybe combining bunches of people into cars and carpooling and things of that sort. But it isn't your only option. It might be your only option for today and tomorrow, but your real option is to exercise the power that you have because you're a citizen in our community and in our wonderful country that allows you to get back to those elected officials and those people who are making big decisions and let them know that you're unhappy. And I know that, Andy, you had done this, and
yes.
Maybe extrapolate a little bit on that.
I was at a meeting a few weeks ago and discovered that there was going to be a lot of this hot rod weekend taking place in White Lake. And the hot rodders don't like to drive the highways when they visit a community. They want to go the back roads. And John Van Wyck noted that the causeway is being closed, and he sure hoped it was going to be open by Hot Rod Weekend. They plan to be open, but their plans don't always get followed up on. So I wrote an email to Senator Hansen and to Representative Hughes and to Representative Hovey Wright and said, look, this thing is supposed to be done before the Hot Rod Weekend, but it's a big deal, and sometimes their priorities don't reflect the priorities of the citizens. So would you just do what you can, making the right inquiries to see if you can make sure that they're done before Hot Rod Weekend? Within a day, Senator Hansen's office had contacted DOT and got a response from them.
And how did you know that? They respond back to you?
Senator Hansen's office sent me the copies of the correspondence they had. I happened to run into Marcia Hovey Wright at church, and she hadn't seen my email, but when I mentioned the topic of it, she said, oh, my goodness, I hadn't thought of it. And within a few days, her office had made contact with the DOT, and I believe that these inquiries are going to make a difference with the DOT. If they have this choice, do we finish up the causeway, or do we finish up something in Grand Rapids or wherever? They might say, let's do it the causeway, because it's important to the people of Muskegon.
Well, if we don't make any noise, the other people who are going to make noise will move ahead of us in line, and it may very well be that there's somebody else in another part of the state who's trying to do the same thing.
Yes.
And they may be contacting their elected officials and saying, look, hey, this is important to us. Again, it seems it disappointed me that the Chronicle essentially was saying, you know, we have no other choice. We just got to, you know, we have to change our behavior. Well, in fact, no. The real answer is to exercise the power that you have as a citizen. Pick up the phone. By the way, the phone is the best way to do that. And all those numbers, by the way, are on EyeOnMuskegon.com. They're on the right-hand column. Also call your county commissioners. That's their job. And there's nothing wrong with saying, you know, I heard on the radio that there's possible construction might cause some problems with this fantastic power tour that's coming up. Can you look into it and let our county or let the state folks who are making those decisions know that it's important to us, and then get back with me, because I think that's important that Hanson got back with you. At least you spoke directly with Hovey Wright. Did Holly Hughes, Representative Holly Hughes, get back with you?
She did not.
Okay. Well,
and
Representative Hughes,
their staff picked up the calls, and so it may very well be that Representative Hughes' staff just missed the boat there.
Okay.
Well, like I said too, why did they close the whole causeway?
And that's an answer. That's a great question, and we don't know the answer to that. And I think that's critical that we let our electeds know that it's important.
It's important when you make these calls that you not make them angry calls, but instead make them inquiries and suggestions.
That's why I don't call.
There we go. Well, and I asked them to call me back. Hey, got to run. Oscar, thank you, Andy. And Scott Hagerson from Americans for Prosperity, and all you wonderful listeners out there, thank you so much. Pass the word on. We are getting the word out. Listen to us on the internet if you like. Today's show will be on EyeOnMuskegon.com sometime in the early afternoon. You can listen to all the old shows. Next Sunday is Mother's Day, and we'll have Captain Fred back. So listen to us on the web. Check out the website, and other than that, stay tuned for Tom Sanaki's Polka Melodies. Hope you all have a great week on our little piece of heaven next week. We'll put the eye on you, Muskegon.
Oh, don't you love me sometime?
Double O Audio and Video offer a unique blend of services with life stories, memorials, documentaries, along with HD commercials and video editing, music video, all with some of the best prices offered and years of experience on top. Also, Double O Audio and Video offer video transfers, 8mm, Super 8, VHS, VHC, slides, all formats transferred to high-quality DVD. Double O Audio and Video. Go on the website at oo-video.com. Double O Audio and Video.
There's so many songs about finding love, yet so few about finding a great price on car insurance. Why? Well, isn't shopping for car insurance a never-ending drama filled with struggle, tears, and heartbreak? As it turns out with Esurance, not so much. See, Esurance was built to cost less, which is kind of music to your ears. Or at least your wallet. Visit esurance.com or call 1-800-ESURANCE for a quote.
Not available in all states. Savings may vary.